hurricane, a tidal wave. Essence perfect, life looks brilliant, give me more of this. I'm out of control, about to blow, and I've been caught in the undertow. So toxic, but I can't get enough. You're firing me, yeah, you're firing me. You've got me hypnotized, push me out of myself. You've got me hypnotized. Whoa, I can see, I can hear, going crazy for the light. It's got me hypnotized. You've got me hypnotized. Everyone is watching me when I'm coming around. They all are judging me when I'm lying on the ground. I've got no shelter, I've got no escape. My life is a prison and I can't run away. I feel it in my bones, I'm losing it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Tuesday night here on Taking Over. I am OLED Ed Fries, and I'm joined by my one and only tag team partner. Well, not my one and only. Every other week, I have a different tag team partner.
I was going to say the special one. Excuse me.
Sure,
Uh-huh.
we'll say that you're the special one. Astrid Pizarro, the natural. How you doing, Astrid?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. We got our friend Bobby Munson in the chat saying, "Good evening, my friends. Happy NX Tuesday to you both." We're doing pretty well, Bobby. We're having a good day. It was a good episode of NXT. Let's just, it wasn't great. Wasn't terrible. Wasn't as good as Raw. Didn't have as many downfalls as Raw. And we'll get to some of that in a bit. But we do want to go ahead and start out because me and Astrid are both of a certain age. So we do want to go ahead and pay our respects to the front man from the band Crazy Town, who put out one of the songs of my teenage years, I'll say. I'll be frank. For you, it was probably a lot more of like your younger years. But Butterfly by Crazy Town was definitely something that I remember listening to over and over and over again. Never quite understanding the lyrics until it was way too late. Then again, that's like most songs nowadays when you go back.
I was about to say that happens to most of the time now.
However, we do want to, both of us pay respects to somebody who I watched growing up as a professional wrestling fan. Astrid probably seen some matches, but probably not a ton. Sika Anawaki, Roman Reigns' father, one of the Wild Samoans, one of the greatest wrestling families to ever live. When Cody says there's more than one royal family in professional wrestling, there are. And the Anawakis are really one of those families. And Afa and Sika get the least amount of credit for what they've cultivated in that family. They really need to get more credit for. Because it all starts with them. And I'm sure, as Bobby says, Rip Sika and Mr. Crazy Town. I'm sure as Bobby and Papa Smokes will probably go into this week on Ring Respect Radio, they're going to go deeper dive into Sika. I remember as a kid watching Afa and Sika, the Samoan SWAT team, the Wild Samoans, all the different variations of the names that they've had throughout the years. It was my introduction to them. And then growing up as a younger kid in WWE, watching Fatu, watching Samu, watching the Head Shrinkers, and continuing to go on and on and on about the lineage of that with Rikishi, with Roman, with the Usos, with Lance Hawaii, with Zilla Fatu, with Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, and then you start bringing in the people who are kind of family, kind of not, and you've got The Rock and Ava and the Tongans and the Tongan Kid. And like, this family just keeps going. And nobody said it better than Bully Ray. This is for your father. This is for your mother. This is for your 97 cousins. It's one of my favorite clips of Bully Ray facing the Usos. It's a sad day because it's the end of an era. I'm starting to watch a lot of the people that I watched when I started watching wrestling. They're all starting to fall like flies now. They're all of that age where they're all starting to go away, and it's ending an era in my professional wrestling fandom to a bit, and it's a sad thing to see. But we have the memories they've made. We have the lineage of the people that are coming before them. So Bobby does say that we'll talk about Sika, but Thursday is a PPW preview show. But we'll absolutely talk about Sika as well. Good to know. STG comes in, and this will be a good question for us because it won't be NXT related, but it is something that will give people vastly different answers. Ashley, why don't you go ahead and talk about who or what got you into professional wrestling?
Well, I have kind of two answers for that. First is my grandpa in Puerto Rico that really he always played the is it WCCW? I keep forgetting the name for some reason. Yeah, the Cologne's promotion. So I remember hearing that, but I wasn't watching it. So I was really more into it with my dad. Started watching on a weekly basis. So I will say with that one. And it was around 2004, 2005-ish, I think, when I started watching. But it was mostly the people like Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio that really got me into it. And then from then it transitioned over to TNA. Really, it's another company for me that really kept me watching. And then from there, I would say NXT is the one that really kept me going as a wrestling fan. And now we just started being mostly, but a lot of everything.
For me, it's a very different story. I grew up obviously in the Northeast, so it was WWF. I think the first wrestling show that I ever remember watching was leading into, I want to say, WrestleMania 9. I was early days in WWE. I am WrestleMania years old, so as long as WrestleMania has happened. However many years WrestleMania is, that's how old I am, because I was born the same year as the first WrestleMania. So as 8 or 9 years old, I started watching professional wrestling then. And it's heel Shawn Michaels, and it's Bret Hart and Tatanka. And I was in the midst of the new generation era. We're transitioning from Hulk Hogan. We're getting ready to go into that new generation era. And it's the Razor Ramones and the Diesel. And there's so much bad from that period. But that's the period that made me fall in love with professional wrestling. Because at that point, it was still geared towards children. It was still geared towards get the kids in the door. The parents will follow. The parents will buy the merch. Everything will be okay. And it kind of still is. But the IWC, which we are obviously a part of as we're on an internet show talking about professional wrestling.
Oh, really?
That. Yeah. But no, that's what got my start. It was that early days of the new generation era in the early 90s when I started watching professional wrestling. And I've never really stopped. I didn't realize that there was more wrestling beyond WWF for a long time, longer than I'd like to admit. But yeah. And this will not be the only professional wrestling I see this week, as I get to go to a live show later on this week. We'll talk more about that later. We're going to get right into the episode, and NXT started off hot. Tag Team Turmoil. We got the new Catch Republic taking on Idris Enofe and Malik Blade. We're just going to go through all of the results, and we'll talk about the match as a whole afterwards. The new Catch Republic beats Idris Enofe and Malik Blade. Apollo, then we get Legado del Fantasma come out there, which is the Garza family. Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza. And Apollo Crews distracts them towards the end of their little run in this. And New Catch Republic scores another victory. Out come the Good Brothers. And the Good Brothers seemingly have things in hand. And New Catch Republic rolls up Doc Gallows for the 1, 2, 3. And OTM laughs at them as they leave. And they all go out. New Catch Republic is now in the finals of Tag Team Turmoil against Chase University. Chase U. And Chase U scores the pinfall when Ridge Holland pushes Andre Chase out of the way as Tyler Bate dives outside. Andre Chase then rolls Tyler Bate inside and scores the pinfall for the 1, 2, 3. Chase U will be taking on Naxium at Heatwave. Ashley, what do you think?
I feel like it was a fun match. I just thought when they said I didn't know it was a turmoil match, so I was expecting it based on the graphic. I thought it was gonna be one person from every team at the same time, that kind of tornado thing. So I was like, when they said turmoil, I was like, okay, this sounds a lot better than what I expected it to be.
That's in part because I sent you the message. You guys, look, tag team version of a battle royal.
Yeah, so I really thought it was gonna be like, I wouldn't say one person per team at least in the ring at the same time, but I like this version more. It just at the same time, I don't know if it's me, but if it's kind of, I don't want to say weird, so I'm trying to find a different word. But the fact that we have out of the 5 teams, we have only 2 that are actually directly from NXT. The other ones are main roster, and they have them come down to be a part of this. It's like, that doesn't sit like right with me in that aspect. Because I'm like, you could have put more teams from NXT here rather than the main roster. But aside from that, I feel like the match was really fun. I like the back and forth that they had. I like the new catch having their moment of like, yeah, we're almost there, and just when we're almost there, Chase U takes it away. And thinking of Chase U versus Naxium is not something I expected in my bingo card. So I'm curious to see how that goes. But again, it looks like a fun match, and I'm really excited to watch it. But overall, this was a good opener for me. I feel like it kept going with the energy they had with everybody that really came out. Again, I feel like all around it was really well done.
Here's the thing, and I agree with everything you said. I think using OTM here would have been better. I think using Hank Tank here would have been better. I think using TNT here would have been better. I think using the D'Angelo family would have been better. However, we decided to go with the main roster tag teams. Fine. I get it. Here's the other thing I have a problem with. I've always had and will always have a problem with gauntlet matches that take less than 25 minutes for an entire gauntlet match. I'm sorry. This is not a WWE speed gauntlet match. These teams should not be losing in 3 to 4 minutes at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I loved when, and again, I know people love it, hate it, the Kofi Kingston Kofi Mania run. Those battle royal, the gauntlet matches that were in that run were sensational. There's a gauntlet match on Raw heading into, I think it's Elimination Chamber one year, where it's Roman, Seth, Finn, Braun Strowman, and they go almost an hour as well. I love that gauntlet match. Gauntlet matches, if you're going to do them like this, they need to be longer, or you need to have more jobbers. You can't continue beating down the teams that are going to be challenging for the tag team titles on the main roster, being beaten by NXT teams in short successions like this. That's my only real problem with this match, is it didn't have enough time to breathe.
Yep.
I don't mind the fact that we have so many people coming down. I don't necessarily mind that we didn't focus on the NXT teams. But if we're going to focus on Enofe and Blade, and we're going to focus on Chase U at the end, and everybody else is going to be kind of a middle ground to get them over, then we need to make sure we get them over. And they did what they needed to do for the story they're telling for Blade and Enofe. I don't like it, but they know what they're doing with beating Blade and Enofe early in this match. So that's fine. I just wish there would have been more to some of the things in the middle.
Yeah, and I don't know, I forgot what I was doing at that moment because I was setting up my stuff. But to me, it felt like the OC felt like one team that felt like it went by too fast. And it was very surprising for me. I think and Malik and Idris and Malik, I feel like they were okay. And then, but it felt like from my notes, it was like I felt like the OC, it felt like they had the shortest time. I was like, that felt weird to me in that aspect as well, because it's one of the teams, like, if you think about it, they have such a big, like, such a resume. You don't expect them to like last a short time in this type of match, but like you said, it just needs that time to breathe and give them enough time. It's like, if you're gonna do, let's say, 25 minutes, make sure that it gets divided between every single team in that sort of way, so everybody gets a little bit of like even-ish time. But that's that's what I would say about it too. Is like I feel like they got eliminated too quickly, and so much happened so quickly as well because we had a Legato coming in and Apollo like doing his thing. And it's like I feel like something was always happening. I forgot what Rich did in the corner with Chase U. I don't know if he did something to help them win. I missed that part.
He pushed Andre out of the way when Tyler Bate dove out, so Tyler dove onto Rich, and then Andre got the win.
So just like everything felt really, really fast for some reason. And it's like it felt like too quick, but not in a good way to put it like that.
Yeah. Bobby says we should start counting the amount of times contributors have been disappointed by something. And next week we can try to improve positive. You know what? I would say that that's right, but here's the thing. We're not criticizing and critiquing people's performances. We're talking about a general wrestling philosophy when it comes to gauntlet matches. It's not necessarily that we're down on the product or we're down on it. Like we're disappointed in the way. And by the way, this is not going to be the first time that you hear me talk about being disappointed on this show. There's a rant coming in the near future on this show that we're going to need to clip in a little while. But no, it's okay to be disappointed in something, and it's okay to want better for it, as long as you're saying, here's what they've done, this is what I would like to see them do. And mine is literally just give them more time. Mm-hmm. It's not hard, and it's not a harsh critique of like this person did bad, boo you, get better. It's if you're gonna have a gauntlet style match, you feel like you need to invest in the idea of a gauntlet, is my mind. Bobby also says, I already sunk that ship on Sunday, so the only way to go is up. I had a philosophy and a divorce from MLW on Sunday. Well, you got one more show that you got to do. One more show before they go to their streaming platform and you give up on them for good. You got to give your marriage one more try with MLW, Bobby. One more time.
I was thinking later of the matches too. Like they could have, for me at least, they could have cut Tavion versus Damon and put that somewhere else because that doesn't have any consequences for Heatwave. I feel like everybody else did. Carmen or Roxanne could have been another one that I'm like, I could have done without, to be honest. But I just think of like the matches that they don't have anything towards Heatwave. I wouldn't have put them on the card tonight and given more time to like the Turmoil.
Going back to where we started finding our love for professional wrestling, SGG, who asked the question, says, when my parents first came to Canada in the late 80s, my mom used to rent the WrestleMania tapes. That was our bond. I remember going every month. I remember going to Blockbuster Video to find the newest WWE release so that I could watch the pay-per-view, because we didn't buy pay-per-views at that point. So every couple of months I was waiting, because remember, when I started watching professional wrestling, there were 4 pay-per-views. Mm-hmm. 4.
Okay. For me, though, it was the fact that they were so expensive because they used to be $50 for every pay-per-view and then $60 for WrestleMania. So at that point, we only bought WrestleMania, and then the other pay-per-views, I will refresh the website to see who won. I will give it like 30 minutes, refresh, and then see who won that match. And I remember that my dad bought WrestleMania 20, and we bought it. We were like, oh, we want to see Eddie and Benoit at that time. And we wanted to see their matches. And then my dad bought it so late, we ended up seeing what the confetti thing happened at the end. And we had to wait for the replay to happen. So after that, the WrestleMania that I really count for me is like from WrestleMania 21 and on, because it's the one that I really fully watched from like beginning to end. So yeah, that tells you something.
Bobby's saying that he's also from Canada and he started his wrestling journey watching WWF Superstars on Saturday mornings. Yep, I remember Saturday mornings, WWE Superstars. They're great. It's definitely, for him, it was silver screen video. I remember watching the first King of the Ring pay-per-view through an old dish, but it had no sound. It's just was picking up the signal feed, but not the audio. Oh yeah. Oh, the old days are great. I remember In Your House, the first time they did the In Your House pay-per-views, where it wasn't supposed to be a series of pay-per-views. They fucking gave away a house. You sent in a postcard, and they had a pool, like a big-ass fucking glass pool, and they took a boat oar to mix it together. And then Sunny, in her nearly not there attire, leaned over the glass pool to find one postcard. And that was the person who won the In Your House.
Dang.
And that was the first time it had happened. And they were like, hey, we can do these smaller pay-per-views in between for like 2 hours at a time. And they only charged like $15, $20 a pay-per-view or $30 at one point.
True.
Like they were super cheap because they were lesser than the big four.
Yeah.
But again, well, let's neither hide nor hair of what we have here. We have Karmen, Petrovic, somebody else, and I believe Ren Sinclair going over the video from last week. I don't know who the somebody else is. She has red hair. I don't know. I don't recognize her, but I'm sure we've seen her at some point.
One on a couple weeks.
Yeah. But I think the girl next to Karmen on the other side was, I believe, Ren Sinclair.
Yep.
They were talking about what happened last week between Roxanne and Lola, and Karmen's talking about it, and then Roxanne comes in and everybody scatters, and Karmen Petrovic stands up to Roxanne, and they're going to have a match, and yay. More Roxanne being a badass in the locker room.
Isn't it funny how a lot of the women's matches end up happening something in the locker room, and it ends up being that's the match that is not advertised ahead of time and starts that way?
Shrug. Shit happens. We see Ethan Page heading to the ring, and this is where we get the Sika Anawahi rest in peace graphic. So again, we pay our condolences to the Anawahi family, to Roman Reigns and his family especially, and also while we're there, to Pat McAfee and his family for his wife's father's untimely death, which is the reason why he wasn't there on Monday night. So, because people thought it was weird that it was in his hometown and he had everybody on to promote the show and then didn't show up for work. Everybody thought it was weird. Made a whole lot more sense today when you saw the Pat McAfee clip. I watched the Pat McAfee show to laugh and have fun. Pat, I don't want you to make me cry on your show. No more making me cry watching your show. But what he said is right. Tell your people that you love them. You never know when you're not going to be able to say it again.
Yeah.
We get Nathan backstage with Dante Chen. Dante Chen being like, hey, look, I know Axiom's your first choice for a corner man, but in the event that, that he's not here or you guys are still going through something, if you need a corner man, I'll be your corner man tonight. And Nathan's like, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm like, this makes sense. Baby faces being baby faces.
Mm-hmm.
Makes perfect sense that they, want to team up and, work together kind of thing. And then Axiom comes in and says, hey, thanks, Dante, for offering. I'm here. It's going to be all right. I'm going to be the corner man. And Nathan's all happy because him and Axiom are back together, reunited, and it feels so good. Oh, it's not going to feel good in 2 weeks.
No.
Feel good. Oh.
I'm not ready.
You're not ready for anything. Seth versus Damien, you're not ready. The Wyatt Six, you're not ready.
No.
Nathan and Axiom breaking up at some point in the near future, you're not ready. Come on, you got to get ready, girl. Come on.
No, I don't want to deal with it.
As our local establishment says, I love all of you. We love you too, our local establishment. our overlords, as I always like to call them. The overlords of our local establishment. SCG asked the question directly to Astrid. Does Astrid get attached to the characters? Astrid get too attached to the characters?
In most shows, no. In wrestling, yes. Because I read what The Walking Dead do not get attached to anybody. So I never get attached to anybody nowadays because they always get killed off. But in wrestling, is a different story.
Astrid, I will say one name and I'm going to use your reaction to understand.
No.
Penelope.
No.
Oh, yes. I have the receipts to tell me how attached you were to Penelope here, lady.
So. She won't be dying. It's okay.
Oh, we got a whole spinoff series coming. Don't you worry. Ethan Page heads to the ring, and Ethan says, going on and on about last week and about how, he beat Javon Evans and yada yada. This was the cookie cutter. We need to set up a fatal 4-way promo, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this was literally roll out the dough, put the cookie cutter down, and do, like, it's fine. Nobody was bad. Everybody was actually really good in this. Ethan Page comes off as all ego, which he is. he calls out Ava, and he hears music play, and he gets annoyed thinking it's somebody cutting him off.
Yes.
Ava, did you see that? Where he's like, "Girl, wait, no, this is good. This is good." Oh, I love that moment when he realized that this is good. I thought that was a fucking riot.
It was so funny the timing of it, because he could at first. I don't know if he looked, because I think he was looking at the camera at first, and then he's like, "Oh, like somebody's interrupting me," and then he turned and he sees Ava's name on the screen. That's when he goes, "Okay, good, come on out, keep going." I'm like, "Did you not recognize her theme song?"
No, does anybody recognize her theme song?
I've heard it before, but I forgot it was hers. But I remembered it afterwards. It's like, and that's what made me think. I was like, this was kind of not awkward, but it was a funny moment.
We then have Ava coming out where she's talking, "You really are all ego. That's not a catchphrase or a name." He's like, "No, when you're as good as me," and here's where I have the only qualm I have with this entire promo section is this next line. "When you bet on yourself as much as I have, and you win every time." Hold on, Mr. Ethan Page. I have some questions for you. When Josh Alexander got pulled to the forefront of TNA, and you had to go back to Karate Man, was that a win for you, Ethan? When you went to AEW and you got relegated to AEW Dark, was that a win for you, Ethan? When you got relegated to Ring of Honor Television and you got a push that led you to a potential match for the television title, but because the television champion was nowhere to be found, and then you left Ring of Honor to come to NXT, was that a win for you, Mr. Ethan? Because those sound like L's to me, buddy.
I like how you went that way, and I was thinking, didn't you go against Trick and lost? That's what I could think about. I went a little bit more recent than you did. I thought, wins. I'm like, I love you, Ethan, and all, but wins? Didn't you lose against Trick not too long ago?
I'm less involved with the wrestling decisions as I am more involved with the I bet on myself all the time and how that turns out for me. Because that's the portion of his thing that I took to heart. And I was like, really? These are wins for you, Mr. Ethan Page. Like, I love Ethan Page. I think he's been great in all of those places. But he was the Marty Jannetty of the North in TNA. And then he went to AEW and ROH. And while ROH did a pretty good job making him feel like a big deal, and the Tony Nese stuff was good, and the Mark Sterling stuff was good, and the stuff with him and Scorpio Sky was good, it never resulted into what the finish of that story was supposed to be, which is him challenging for the television title. And he even challenged and lost the TV title match. I'd have considered that a win, to be honest with you.
But I like how we both interpret it like in different ways too. If you think about it that way, it's always interesting when you think of a line and it's like it could go so many different ways depending on people. And it's like all I can think about was like, didn't you lose against Trick? And I forgot about the match that he did. I don't know if he had another match that he lost in. I was thinking of that as well.
Won the other one. The other one against Javon. Yeah, Bobby says he seems like someone who cries while listening to music. We dub thee all emo. Ethan. Shawn Spears come out and he's like, no, Ethan, I agree with you. I agree with everything you've said. You beat Javon, and Javon was the #1 contender, so you should be in line for a championship match. Well, I beat Javon before he became the #1 contender, and I'm going to beat Trick Williams tonight. And I go, really? Really, Mr. Spears? You're going to beat Trick? I might have to eat those words, but I wrote it in my notes, so I'm going to say it here. And these two start getting into it. You know, the two heels are like, no, I should be in the match. No, I should be in the match. And Trick Williams comes out and he says, look, I can save everybody a lot of time. Ava, if it's Javon Evans, that's fine. If it's Ethan Page, the bum-ass Ethan Page, it's fine. If it's both of them, it's fine. And Shawn Spears, unhappy that Trick leaves him out, he goes ahead and attacks Trick. Ethan Page joins in because why not beat down Trick? Out comes the young OG. They fight each other off. Baby faces stay in the ring. Heels go out to the outside. Ava holds the championship. And Ava looked at that title a little too long for my liking, and I'm like, no, Ava, this isn't AEW. Women don't get to look at the men's championships like that. No. Save that for Javon and save that for Trick. You're not going for that. You can go after Roxanne's title, but you can't look longingly at the men's championship, Ava. WWE doesn't play that game. I wouldn't be against it. I'm just saying that's not how WWE plays their game.
Yeah, and I was thinking when this happened that we would get the announcement of Javon and Trick versus Ethan and Shawn. But then so far nothing. But
we're getting it next week.
Yeah, I was like, but I know we're getting that next week for sure. But I was just expecting it to happen at this moment that she would announce. It's like, no, never mind. Next week you're gonna go these two versus these two. Go at it.
Yeah. I thought they were gonna fix tonight's match to be the tag match. I think next week might be Trick and Oro versus Shawn Spears and Ethan Page, and Javon Evans gets the week off. Okay. I think that might be where they go, because we still got the Oro Mensa of it all. That we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Ridge is walking backstage and he's confronted by the new Czech Republic, and they're not happy with him. And he's like, "Look! You know, like I did what I did, and things happened." And he walks off, and Hank and Tank come up, and they start talking about how great New Czech Republic did and how they want to go ahead and face a great team because they weren't part of the gauntlet. I'm like, yeah, why weren't you part of the gauntlet? You're healthy. Yeah. Why weren't you part of the gauntlet, boys? Like, not that I want to see Hank Tank wrestle, but at the same time, if you're going to have to beat somebody in 2 minutes, can it be Hank Tank? Instead of Legado del Fantasma, can't we beat Hank Tank?
Mm-hmm.
Either way, they challenge each other for a match, and Tyler Bates seemingly accepts as Pete Dunne walks away. So I think we're getting that next week.
Probably.
Stevie Turner offers to be a snitch to Robert Stone to get a position closer to Ava or opportunities. I really don't know what she's trying to get. I don't know what she's doing.
No.
I'd rather just see her wrestle.
And it started with everything, with like around that time with Jordan and everything, that she was in the office there, but they didn't say, "Oh, Stevie is the assistant" or whatever. And I'm like, if Stone is doing it, then what we need Stevie in there for? But again, like she's like, "No, I mentioned Roxanne's plan. I did the Jordan thing, so it's like I deserve to be here." And I was like, "But what are you though?" It's like, I want to know, because you're just standing there next to Ava and Stone's on the other side, and then I don't think there's much of an explanation on that end.
No, they're certainly not giving us a great explanation for it. So, but you know what? We'll do what we do, and we'll get where we get, and we'll see where we fall when all the dust settles. Yeah. As long as I get to see Stevie on my TV, and preferably in a wrestling match, I'll be happy. Wes Lee comes out for his match with Joe Coffey, and I put in my notes he squashed Joe Coffey. This match didn't last very long.
No.
What? Why did this match not last very long?
That's another one that's, to me, I know I could have done without it. I get it was to set up with like Oba Femi after the match, but this could have easily been a promo of Wes Lee talking about like, I deserve a shot. Oba like just answers and says yes, because it just felt like this went by so quickly. I feel like I could have done without it, and you can add a little bit more time to the turmoil after removing this match as well. It's like there's not much to it. The thing that made me laugh is like that I mentioned to you is that there's a one point that Wes kicks Joe, and I think it was Vic that mentioned something like he's so disoriented, like Justin Timberlake. And like I feel like I need a clip of him like with the rings when he gets kicked off because of the reaction that he did afterwards to sell. But I'm like, I could have done without this one too, because there was not much to it afterwards until Oba Femi comes out.
I like the match. I would have rathered more. I would have rathered we not done 6 of the next 18 backstage segments tonight and given this match 10 more minutes.
Yep.
Was he in the Hamptons like Timberlake? No, I can guarantee you Joe Coffey is not a Hamptons person. He may very well find a nice place to drink, but I guarantee you it's not going to be in the Hamptons. That's not the place that the people like Joe Coffey go to drink.
Yeah.
Oba Femi confronts him from the Eagle's Nest, and we find out that Wes Lee versus Obafemi for Heatwave. And if Wes Lee loses, he cannot challenge for the North American Championship again until Obafemi is no longer the champion. I love these stipulations. I love when a person's like, I'll not challenge for the title again as long as you're champion. Those are the only I won't challenge for a title things that we should ever have. None of this Cody Rhodes and AEW, I'll never challenge for the world title again. No. I won't challenge for the title while you're champion. It's the perfect way to do it. Because it always lets you come back into it should you need to. Sarah Schreiber talks to the D'Angelo family. Not this D'Angelo family, but the other D'Angelo family. As we go ahead and find out about Tony D's thoughts on his title and his Heritage Cup defense tonight. And it's, again, standard basic stuff that didn't need to be a promo packet, a backstage vignette, and could have easily just been more time for the Wes Lee match. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. Tony D cuts a halfway decent promo, talks about how great Nathan Frazer is, talks about, how excited he is to have this match, talks up his boys, saying Luca and Stax have got him all set and ready to go ahead and punch him in the mouth and see what happens. Speaking of people who punch people in the mouth and see what happens, we got Chris Parrish in the chat. Hello, Chris Parrish. Thank you for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. Again, another vignette and backstage thing that we didn't really need is Chase U celebrating their win. Duke has some sort of envelope that Ridge kind of takes, and they have this moment before the rest of Chase U comes running up, and they all celebrate the win, and Ridge and Duke are giving each other weird looks as Ridge holds on to this envelope. So cool. Again, didn't need this, didn't want this, could have cut this and added more time to the Wes Lee match. We then get Parrish says, I don't punch people. Closed fists are illegal. This is true. But you're a dirty, rotten heel. And that's what dirty, rotten heels do. They punch people with closed fists when the ref's not looking. I believe you're a heel right now. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know you go back and forth. Sometimes you're a babyface, sometimes you're a heel. I believe you're currently a heel, if I remember correctly from the chatter from the RCW shows that I've heard about last, which you can find with our good friends Andre and Melball Wrestling Chat, where they talk about on the Chop Talk episodes every time they go. Parrish responds with, I'm a Pisces. Thank you for not being of any help. Thank you, Parrish. I greatly appreciate it. Congratulations to your Edmonton Oilers for an incredible season. They fell down at the last straw, but, they made it further than anybody ever thought they would. Hell, Game 7 after being down 3-0. Hell of a run for you boys. Speaking of cups, we'll go from the Stanley Cup to the Heritage Cup. Astrid, what do you think of the Heritage Cup match here?
I had moments of those moments when Nathan is so close and the time runs out. I got so frustrated. I was like, I know he was not gonna win it, but still, I had those moments of I want it to happen. Yeah, that's the only thing. But it was, you already kind of get the feeling of Tony's gonna get it towards the end. They just try to give you 1-1 and then the 1 so that way he wins. So I feel like I already followed the structure. I just hated the fact of seeing Nathan be that close and still not getting it.
I liked the structure. Normally, and I agree with you, the structure is kind of platformed, but I like the way they did it. Nathan gets a win within 40 seconds in round 1. They recoup and recover, and Tony D'Angelo gets re-geared up, and he gets a quick fall in round 2. They have a minute or so left in round 2. So it's they both get this quick fall, and then we run into 3, 4, 5. All these rounds go the distance. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. I like that because we haven't seen that in a Heritage Cup match. Normally it's somebody gets a quick fall in round 2, and then somebody else gets might sneak one in round 3. And then it's 4 and 5 are close, and then we get to 6. I like that this was different. And honestly, Tony D'Angelo's 2 Heritage Cup matches have been completely different. When he faced Damon Kemp, when he won the Heritage Cup, it was a completely different style Heritage Cup match than the one he wrestled tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that because they changed the pace based on who the opponents were, and they changed the predictable, but I liked how it was at least worth my time. They made me invested in it. They made Nathan look good in defeat so that Nathan doesn't really fall too far, but Tony D'Angelo gets that nudge to go to the next level, which Tony drastically needs at this point. So I thought this was a success for everybody involved. Then we move to another backstage segment, which I really could have done without. Trick Williams talking to Javon Evans. Backstage, Javon's like, hey, I'm going to be in your corner tonight, so that nothing, no shenanigans happen. And Trick is like, look, young OG, you're my next challenger. You and me are going to be fighting for this belt. I'm going to go ahead and give you some advice. Focus on winning the title. Focus on trying to beat me. Don't worry about my stuff. I'll handle my stuff. You focus on you and what you got going on. And also, I've been around the block a few times, and this title makes people go crazy. And I really don't want people in my corner anymore. I love that we're finally getting character development coming off of all the Carmelo Hayes stuff. We've finally gotten the first sense of development from all of that.
Mm-hmm. And it's also nice to see. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, it's also nice to see, like, just because the story ended doesn't mean he forgot about the experience that he had there. Because sometimes it just feels like they have amnesia, and then we go to the next story and they forget what happened with the one before that. And I'm glad that there's continuity there.
I agree. Parrish does bring up a good point, which is something that we talked a little bit about last week, and something that we talked about going forward is with the TNA partnership. Do you feel like Trick's reign is getting stale? He seemed to be a better chaser. In Perez's opinion, and me and you both agree with that statement, believe it or not. We both said a couple weeks ago that we don't see the whoop that era being a long-term era. I think it's going to be a shorter, especially with the idea that we have a TNA partnership. I think a TNA partnership is the perfect place to call an audible on the Trick Williams era, have him drop the title, and have a Joe Hendry or a Josh. Imagine if Ethan Page wins this title and all of a sudden Josh Alexander's music plays at Heatwave. In Toronto, Canada, in the North. Granted, I understand it's the south of the North, but it's the same idea. Parrish says, who's the right heel to the Thona? My guess is Eric Young. His hope is Eric Young. I like Eric Young. I don't know if Eric Young is a babyface or a heel. I don't watch a whole lot of TNA right now. I think he's a babyface, but like I said, I think the perfect idea is you give the belt to Ethan Page. And I think finally giving us some closure on Ethan Page versus Josh Alexander cross company could do a lot of good for a lot of people. I just think that'd be a fun match to have.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, Shawn Spears is the other option because Shawn Spears is, and congratulations to Shawn Spears and Cassie. As you guys will see in the thumbnail, I have a reference to Shawn Spears becoming a dad. But no, congratulations to them on the birth of their second child this week. So Shawn Spears is a daddy times 2 now. So, but no, I think that I agree. I think Trick is a much better chaser than he is a champion. Not to say he's a bad champion, but he got dropped into the worst possible situation. Coming out of the draft, losing Ilya Dragunov, losing Carmelo Hayes, not really having a defined heel to go up against, and then bringing in Ethan Page, and then having the TNA partnership. He's just fallen down the pecking order of what's kind of cool or important with NXT right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to get any better with the debut of Julia on the horizon. No, I have a feeling him and Cassie will not go for 10. We move on to Roxanne Perez versus Karmen Petrovic. I almost said Carmen Electra. That's another myth from my youth, not in wrestling. Karmen Petrovic versus Roxanne Perez. But first, Lola Vice has to shake her ass all the way down the ring. Talk to Vic and Booker. And I'll be honest, I turned off commentary. vitality. Didn't want to even try to see what the hell was going to happen with her on commentary with Booker.
No.
Did I miss much?
No, I think it was around. I don't know if it was around this part or after the match was over. But at one point, Vic is like, basically, who are you gonna pick for like the person? Because you got Lola that's in commentary, but you have your student here, Roxanne, in the ring. So he kind of wanted Booker to choose. I think Booker got quiet at that moment, and he's like, "You're gonna be quiet now," something along those lines, which is pretty funny to see.
Yeah, so I mean, we got that going on. We've got Dark Sage 9117. Not a name I recognize, but thank you for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. Does he got an interesting wrestling question for the both of us, and he's going to take off for the night? Well, go ahead and leave it in the chat, and we will get to it right after we talk about Noam Dar, Metaphor. All right. My hate for Metaphor made me dislike this segment. But I think I'm supposed to like this segment because Ora Mensa tells this fantastic story. And I don't know if it's real, kayfabe, or what. Because we've never really had any character development for Oro Mensa. And I don't know what the fuck this was. Like, it's really good. Like, it's a heartfelt story about him, his dad basically almost burning to death in a fire and having to go to Switzerland to go ahead and get treatment. And so the family gets split up, and some of them stay in Nigeria, and some of them go to Switzerland, and they end up in foster care where Oro Mensa's not like the other kids. And he doesn't have that connection to family and, you know, all this and that. It's a really heartfelt, heartstrings promo. You can see Lash like sitting there getting kind of emotional. You can hear Noam Dar piping in every couple, you know, little bits being like, oh, that's, you know, we love you, Oro. Like, this is great little community moment for Metaphor. But I feel like it's tarnished by the fact that I just hate them so much that I felt like it was a bad segment, but I feel like it's a good segment. And I'm trying not to paint it with my I hate Metaphor brush. What did you think of the segment?
My favorite thing was Booker's reaction because Vic is talking and he looks at Booker and Booker's like, you know, having that moment of like sniffling here because he wasn't expecting that. And it felt so genuine when that reaction happened. But yeah, just like you, I was torn about it because I'm like, I don't want to know about Noam Dar. So when they started the segment, I was not entirely like, I want to say pleased about it. But once Ora started talking, I was like, okay, this is something. And I wanted to remember back his video packages before he debuted, but I couldn't remember much of that. That's the only bad thing. And I feel like it's been quite a while since we heard from his background, so, you know, since he debuted at that point. But it was interesting seeing that because we don't get tidbits like that from him, for example.
Yeah. I like I said, I like the segment overall, and he vows to go ahead and get Ethan Page, which I like. Like, I like a lot of this, but at the same time, my hate for Metaphor makes me want to dislike this segment because it feels disingenuous, even though it shouldn't. Like, it felt heartfelt. He did such a good job being vulnerable and emotional, and it's in the moment too. It was really interesting. Dark Sage's question, and it's a long one. One thing I love today in the form of sports and media is how the media will never admit that they are wrong and always claim that fans have no idea what they're talking about and how they are always wrong. Has there ever been a time as a wrestling fan when the media when you wanted the media or journalists to admit that they were wrong, but they never did and kept trying to get out of what they said prior? So yes and no. There's wrestling journalism, and I use big ass fucking air quotes for journalism because I've gone to broadcasting school. Like I have a degree in broadcasting. I understand how journalism works. And journalism works in a factor of you need to have two sources before you report any story. You have to have two sources that are willing to be stated sources. You can't have unnamed sources. In real journalism, you're not supposed to be able to have that. You're supposed to basically, everything else is rumor until you have two sources. And if you want a good example of this, watch The Newsroom. The Newsroom is always my go-to. If you want to see what real journalism is supposed to look like, watch the newsroom. You really get a sense of, two-source verification, what that means. As far as wrestling journalism goes, when you're dealing with people like Vince McMahon, Eric Bischoff, everything is always, and I don't want to defend Vince McMahon, and Lord knows I won't, but there's one thing I will defend him on. The wrestling business is a bunch of spinning. If you've ever seen a juggling act, the guy who holds the stick with a spinning plate on it, and he holds like more and more, and they have all these spinning plates. That's kind of what wrestling booking is. It's a whole bunch of spinning plates waiting to see where things land. Because with injuries and nowadays with pregnancies, and I only say that because women's wrestling has never been hotter than it is right now. It's at its height right now. And we're now seeing more and more women in the ring, which means we're seeing more and more women get pregnant while being at the top of their game. So we're seeing them come and go in a rate that we've never seen before, because we've never had this many people have that experience. But the wrestling journalists like to say things change, plans change. There's a reason why every wrestling show that's promoted, at the bottom of their card is there's a little asterisk, and it says card subject to change, because they never know from one night to another what could happen and what will happen. So wrestling journalism, like I said, I consider it a rumor mill. All wrestling journalism, and I have a really good friend, Tom Collier, who is a wrestling journalist, and even he says it's rumor mill. It's, you hear sources and you report the things you hear, and you report the things you know. But remember that nobody's infallible, and that all of these people are wrong. And Sean Ross Sapp gets it wrong every now and then, but he's right an awful lot. And you have Dave Meltzer, who, love it or hate it, he's right sometimes and he's wrong sometimes, and he has terrible opinion on women's wrestling. But he's a historian. He's been around watching professional wrestling for 40, 50 years, and he's been writing about it in all that time too. Like, it's a big, long time. Do I wish more wrestling journalists would be willing? Would I wish more wrestling journalists would be willing to admit when they're wrong? Yes, I do. I do wish more of them were willing to admit when they're wrong. However, I do want to say that, it's something we're probably never going to see. Most media in general, even real news media, doesn't like to admit when they're wrong. They don't like to post retractions, because if they do, they're going to end up on a lesser scale, and they're going to end up as untrustworthy. So being right and never admitting you're wrong is a way of, and oftentimes they're not wrong in terms of, I'm reporting something to you that's a bold-faced lie. They're often reporting something that they hear that they believe to be a true factual statement. I don't believe that Dave Meltzer, Sean Ross Sapp, Tom Collier, I'll stick with those three. Raj Giri, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt too. These guys don't lie to us just out of nowhere. They all hear something. Cassidy Haynes. They all hear something and go with what they've heard from sources that they trust. Speaking of a time where somebody admitted it, Astrid, you're part of Body Slam, but I'm going to use this as an example because it's the one that I can remember the most. When WWE was announcing that it was going to be sold, when all that news came out, me and you were sitting here, and Cassidy Haynes came out and reported that he had good, solid sources telling him that WWE was going to be sold to Saudi. That it was a matter of hours and days, not long, and it was going to be sold to Saudi. Not only did it never get sold to Saudi, it took weeks and months for the sale to happen, and it ended up being Endeavor in the end. Cassidy did admit that the source was wrong, and I actually like Cassidy more for admitting the fact that he just got it wrong, because I'm more willing to trust somebody who tells me they get it wrong every now and then, because at least I know that they're reporting in good faith. If that makes any sense to anybody. I'm not even mad yet.
We haven't gotten there yet. Hold on.
We haven't got to the rant yet. And speaking of Andre C, I know he's not here for this, but we're gonna do it anyway. So give me a couple seconds.
Oh shoot.
I showed up for a reason.
I know you showed up for a reason. Go ahead, Andre.
Yeah.
We just covered it. Talk about Lola Vice and Roxanne Perez.
I haven't seen the show because I was recording with Mel before this, so I haven't actually got to see the show. But goddamn, I cannot wait for Lola Vice to win the NXT Women's Championship in 2 weeks.
It's not happening.
Oh, it is.
Man.
Oh, it is, baby.
All right.
No,
Andre,
it's gonna be
main
Roxanne and
roster.
Julia. Do you want Julia to win from Lola?
Sure. I'm
Hell
down with that.
no.
That'd be a way better
No.
match.
No.
Two fighters fighting each other. I'm down. Let's go. We can have another NXT Underground match.
Do you think Julia would ever soil herself to wrestle somebody as bad as Lola Vice?
No, she'll have an NXT Underground match with her, and they'll have a great fight together.
I agree that would probably be a really good fight. I think Julia's built for NXT Underground. Like if they're trying to make this Lola's thing, they're gonna have a real problem when they get Julia in there, because
You
that's
should change your name.
UFC, give it to me, baby.
No, change your name to Lola's the Lulu fan. That's what you should change your name to. It's more accurate.
I don't know. I'm happy to see you're getting into the title picture, so that's why I wanted to pop in here.
Andre, on the night Heatwave, I know we have a special guest, and we'll talk more about that in just a little bit. But on the Heatwave show, when we talk about Roxanne Perez versus Lola Vice, if you're around, I'd love for you to come in and join me, Ashton, and our special guest, and we'll talk about that. And we'll let you in as a special guest for the one match. All right?
I'm happy to do that because I'm going to do everything I can to watch that show that day. So,
all right. For anybody who wants to see Andre and me again talking and rambling about all kinds of great stuff, tomorrow night, me and Andre C are talking all things Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 on Marvel Talk.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be tomorrow night. Yes, Volume 1. So that'll be tomorrow.
Oh shit!
night.
I watched the wrong movie.
If you watch the wrong movie, we're gonna have a real fun.
No, I don't want to watch the movie I don't like.
I mean, Guardians 2.
Oh, I was about to say, if you tell me you don't like Guardians 1, I'm kicking you out of here right now.
Oh,
No,
one is
Okay, making sure.
Everybody likes Guardians 1. Andre, thank you for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Bye.
Whoa.
Yeah, I hit the wrong button. Here we go. Back to normal. We had some inner chat in there as we talked about all of that, but we do have Mike the ref coming in saying Andre coming in again to prove he's this. No, Mike.
Excuse moi.
Mike, are you a Lola Vice fan too? Like
I
know you're an AEW fan. That's bad enough, but you're a Lola Vice fan on top of it. And also, make me mad. Lash Legend for NXT champion. No.
It's okay, Mike. It's gonna be Mike DeLulu, the ref, too. See, they go with each other.
Mike DeLulu ref. There we go.
Yeah.
Trying to get this runaway train back on track. The Good Brothers are backstage attacking OTM until Jada Parker tries to get involved, and Michin cuts her off and beats the hell out of her.
Yes.
I'm just going to talk about this now. We later on get Jada and Michin confirmed in a street fight later on when she interrupts an interview segment with I believe it was Kalani. Kalani was the one talking. Yep. And then Jada comes out at the very end when they're trying to send it back to Booker, and she grabs the camera and makes him pay attention to her. It was a really good promo. I love Jada. I think she's everything they wanted Lash to be. She can talk, she can wrestle, she's got the it factor that the crowd
that confidence.
She's got that confidence. She's really coming along.
Mm-hmm.
We see Ava back in her office, and she confirms that we're going to see. I don't know why, and maybe this is something I missed from last week, that Carly Bright was upset about Wendy Chu, but apparently they're going to have a match next week now.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh, I forgot you didn't watch it last week. That's what I was like. How come you don't know? No, because she was in the match. And, that's the girl. I think that the one with the reddish hair. I think the one that Wendy kind of took out while Carly was having her match, and that's what Carly lost. So.
Okay. I was like, I don't remember there being an issue between Carly and Wendy. Last I knew, when Wendy beat up Brindley. I was like, that's the last thing I remember from Wendy Chu. Then Lola comes in and drops the title on her desks and requests a championship match. which is later confirmed when we get so Lola Vice versus Roxanne Perez for Heatwave. Oh, Heatwave is shaping up to be an interesting show. I don't know if it's going to be a good show. But sure as hell it's going to be an interesting show.
Yeah.
We then get Tavion Heights taking on Damon Kemp, and Tavion Heights, if he wins, becomes a member of the Candy Crew. I don't know if he wants to be a member of the Candy Crew. I didn't watch last week, so I don't know the interaction of how that went and if it was a thing that he wanted or not.
I don't remember him saying like he wanted to be a part of it, but he was part of the conversation, and that's when Charlie goes, "Oh, so I'm gonna have you and Damon go against each other next week, and if you win, like you're in." And I was like, I don't know why he would want to be in there, but sure.
I mean, strength in numbers is nice to be part of a crew, but I sure as hell wouldn't want to be part of the Candy Crew.
No.
And there's this little friction between Damon Kemp. I think Damon Kemp's on his way out of the Candy Crew. Because he eliminated Charlie by accident in the Battle Royal, I believe, too.
Yeah, and even here, after Tavion wins, Charlie's raising his hand, so Damon's definitely not happy about not only Tavion winning, but Charlie being so happy that he won and celebrating with him, too.
Yeah. But it was a good match. I enjoyed Tavion Heights. We didn't get long to watch because, again, it was a short match that kind of... It told the story, it moved the storyline along, but it didn't necessarily do anything for Tavion Heights. I liked it, but I would have rather seen 5 more minutes to really get a feel for Tavion. It fell a little flat. It was good. What we got was good, but I wanted more. This is then get the Kalani thing where she talks about who's next, and the winner of Sol Ruca versus Arianna Grace will be challenging at Heatwave for the North American Women's Championship. So, and that's when Jada comes in and challenges for the street fight. And then Brindley is talking up her boys in Idris Enofe and Malik Blade until Izzy Dame not wearing green.
I know, right?
Not wearing green.
I was waiting to see if you recognized her.
I did. They very helpfully gave me a name placard that said Izzy Dame on it. Because I honestly didn't realize who it was until the name placard came up and said,
damn it.
She wasn't playing volleyball and she wasn't wearing green. I don't know what to tell you. But no, I liked what Izzy had to say here. She kind of picks on Brindley and she's like, look, the boys are just too nice to tell you this, but all your positive energy, all that, it's not helping them. It's not helping you. You're all losers. And more importantly, they don't want you around. And Brennan's like, wait, you guys don't want me around? And she looks to Blade. And Blade's like, no, I like you. It's good. We're fine. And then she looks over to Idris Enofe, and he's like, doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. He's like, I'm just going to be nice and smile, as I saw somebody else say about something else. I'm just going to be
not in
nice
smile. It's not in smile.
So apparently we're going to have Izzy Dame and Idris Enofe versus Brindley Reese and Malik Blade in the near future. Or vice. I'll be honest. I can never remember which one's Blade and which one's Enofe. I know that there's 2 of them. I know they're different. And they don't look anything alike. I just never remember in my head which one's
If I remember correctly, Malik is the bigger looking one. I know that they look kind of similar. Yeah.
All right. Well, I have it right then. I always think Enofe is the small one with the kind of fuzzy hair.
Yeah, because Idris is a little bit smaller. Like he's thinner, to put it like that.
Built, he's the one that's jacked but in built, but he's got like the short fuzzy hair. Okay, so I do have it right.
I think we got it right, but I'll let you know.
We have Naxium backstage after your loss, and Naxium's like, well, you know what? At least now, with your loss, we can go ahead and focus on the tag team title match against Chase U. And Frazier's like, yeah, absolutely. We can focus exactly on that. Nothing else. You've got my entire focus. He's like, all right, let's go watch some tape and let's get ready for Chase U. And then Nathan's like, yeah, we'll do that right after I go and get my back checked out because I have a speed match tomorrow on X.
Yeah.
Nathan Frazier's breaking Axiom's poor heart here.
Mine too.
Melba, thank you for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. We just had your tag team partner run in after you were recording tonight. Remember that you guys can, if you want to, you guys can see Melba Collins and Andre right here on the Our Local Establishment channel this Friday night, I believe 10 p.m. I don't know if it's live or if it's Memorex tonight this week. So, Mel, if you can go ahead and let me know. I don't know if you guys have got any wrestling going on. I know LPW was last week, so I don't know what you guys get. At least he's bugging somebody besides me.
He's the Lulu on top of it because he's a Lulu Vice fan, so that makes it even worse.
You've made him go crazy with all this talk about all of your Japanese wrestling, where he thinks Lola Vice is a competent professional wrestler. So you gotta we are pre-recording. Andre will be at LPW and you'll be at I thought LPW was last Friday. Because I remember somebody saying it'd be stupid if anybody programmed a wrestling show against the Edmonton Oilers game last Friday, and I just assumed that LPW had a wrestling show. Apparently, I was wrong. He's smarter than I thought. That's something I'm surprised by. Anyway, moving on. Sol Ruca versus Arianna Grace. I love this match. I thought it was great. Oh, it was RCW who made the mistake and booked against the Oilers.
I remember now.
Promotion. I didn't think it was Squig. I thought it was the other guy who runs LPW. Good to know. I was right that somebody did it. I was just wrong about the promotion. Well, yes, Mel. Anybody in their right mind would go to a wrestling show over watching the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, the Oilers. I just like picking on my Canadian friends who are mostly all in Edmonton, who are big Oilers fans, like the ref, like Chris Parrish.
Mm-hmm.
No, well, wrestling or hockey all day every. I mean, not all day every day. I'm a Boston Bruins fan, and hockey trumps a lot of things. But if it's not my Bruins, I don't care. I'll go to the wrestling show. But anyways, Sol Ruca and Arianna Grace. I thought this match was great. There were a couple of missteps in this match. However, I will say the girls worked really hard to not just go to the exact same spot and do it over again. I like how these girls made sure to call an audible when something didn't work, change it up, and then go back to the spot a couple seconds later, but to make it make more sense. The space that I noticed this the most is Sol's going up for the Soul Snatcher, and she slips on the second rope as she's getting ready to bounce. Her foot slips a little, and she doesn't quite have the balance. So she grabs the ropes, does a spin, kicks Arianna Grace, does a move, and then works right back into the Soul Snatcher. I thought that was chef's kiss fantastic. So many times with young professional wrestlers or professional wrestlers who don't have enough experience, a la a Jade Cargill, something goes wrong and they lose all track of what they're doing. I think Jade's done pretty well with everything, said and done. And yes, she had a real bad fuck up at the pay-per-view. Guess what? A lot of people did. Damian Priest has been doing this damn thing for 10 plus years. And Damian Priest up in those ropes and almost broke his fucking ankle.
Almost everybody had an issue with that rope, so.
Like, those ropes that night were not in good shape. And a lot of good, competent professional wrestlers had issues with those ropes. Mm-hmm. However, the thing I will knock Jade Cargill for at the pay-per-view is Jade Cargill lost all control of what she was doing the moment she fucked up. That was the point where I think that's the negative that you can give on Jade Cargill in that moment. When everything went wrong, she couldn't recover. And that's a bigger mistake, and that's a bigger botch than just screwing up the move. However, here, Sol and Arianna both come together and make something happen when the move goes wrong. And yes, it took 20 seconds, but they got right back into the same thing. They didn't go a whole, out of their way to make sure that they just simply reset for the Soul Snatcher again. They did a couple things to make it make more sense to do it again. And that's where I thought there was a lot of good here. What did you think of the match?
This was another one that I don't want to say it was short, it was a little bit more than that, but it felt a little bit short as well compared to the other matches. That's what made me think of like there are matches and segments here that I would have taken out because again, think of anything that is related to Heatwave, like this match. This is basically a number one contenders match. Which I should have advertised it that way, and they didn't. They mentioned, I was like, yeah, the winner goes at Heatwave, but they never really announced it like that beforehand. I would have said, this is a number one contenders match. Make it look important. Make it like it has an importance to it. It's like, if it has implications towards Heatwave, give it time. And I feel like they should have given it a little bit more time than what they got tonight. I know it's just kind of like a mid-card championship, so you don't expect it to be like this great thing. But again, it's like, I feel like they could have given it a little bit more time than what they did. And just say, look, the winner of this is really going to go against Kalani. So I was like, we should think about this way and look how hard the girls are working. But I feel like even with I don't want to say little time, but with the time that it got, I feel like they did really well together. And it just didn't feel like it gave me that like that more contender kind of feel though in the match in itself. I wish it would have felt that way for me, but it didn't. But again, I had a feeling that it was going to be Sol. I did like the part of Kalani coming out after Sol wins, raising her hand, and even Sol looking at the championship just as Kalani's looking at it too. And I was like, yeah, when it comes to Heatwave, we'll see what happens here. But I think both of them really have good chemistry because they do kind of like that high pace kind of style. And I feel like they're both going to blend really well.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a positive match. But again, the whole point of this show is cut about 60% of these backstage segments and give these matches more time. And it would have been a lot of good. Ed, please stop expanding your admittance of your poor taste universally. Mike, I'm sorry that you have to be a Canadian and root for hockey teams that haven't won a championship in, I believe, my lifetime. I'm sorry that you don't get to have championship after championship like the wonderful city of Boston does. Year after year, almost every year, we get a championship. I know. It's a lot to handle, but it's okay. Someday, Edmonton will win championships just like Boston. Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. Maybe you can hope for those kind of achievements. And no, the Grey Cup doesn't count in Canadian Football League. Anyways, moving on. We've got, what's the next segment? Crap, my notes died. Wait, hold on. We have Kalani back in Seoul for Toronto. And then we have JC Jane talking to Jasmine next about how they're being overlooked. And Fallon goes, yeah, we're being overlooked. And they're like, maybe we should do something about it. And I'm like, no.
And they also say it's like, oh, it's happening to the girls that kind of like have been here for years. And it's like, yeah, like somebody like Karmen who just got here. Look at her getting this opportunity to go against Roxanne. Just Karmen is walking behind them. But I was surprised she didn't stop or anything like that. But they said it's like, yeah, we should take something. We should take kind of like that opportunity from Karmen, and we should do something about that. And I was like, interesting partnership.
No more friends. No. Didn't we just go through a whole thing with Fallon Henley where we're stop giving Fallon Henley friends?
And not only that, but she's like in that kind of mindset, I guess if you call it, that she'll say, look, I want to be by myself. I want to earn my opportunities and do this and that. But then she's going to go team up again with the girls and contradict everything she did the last couple weeks. Yeah, it's okay.
She has to go murder more cows on her family farm, whatever the hell it is. She can make more outfits. Next week, we're getting Jada Parker versus Meechin in a street fight and Roxanne versus Lola Vice face-to-face. We can also add Hank Tank versus New Catch Republic, as that was essentially announced for next week. So we'll see if it actually happens. But yeah, that's what comes next week. And now we come to an Ed rant.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So during the Trick Williams match, we get the appearance of Mr. Ben Bullshit Brooks Jensen, whatever the hell he wants to go by. I don't even know what the real name he's using on social media to pretend what he's Ben something or other. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I think this is the stupidest thing they've done in a long time. I like the idea of trying to blend reality with fiction. I like the idea of people coming and going as they please. I don't like, however, taking Brooks Jensen and having him essentially say that he's been released from NXT, which he's stated on social media multiple times that he's been released from NXT. And then to have him state that his 30-day non-compete clause is up, which he would technically have if he were actually released. However, both Brooks Jensen and WWE have confirmed to Fightful, and they named both of them as sources on the story. So it's pretty hard for them to say that it's not true, that Brooks Jensen is still currently employed by the WWE, and he's not been released. To then have his wife go out on social media and cut this really weird promo about not knowing where Brooks Jensen was and him no-showing a local independent wrestling show. And it's just really fucking weird. Ben Buchanan. Thank you, Ashton. I appreciate you getting me the name. Ben Buchanan. I like Brooks Jensen a little bit. I don't like him a lot, but I think he's got talent. He was my least favorite part of that group. And honestly, now he's probably second in that line because Fallon's pissing me off. But I thought they were building something with Shawn Spears. And we'll get to Shawn Spears and Brooks Jensen in a minute when we talk about this main event. But as for my rant, WWE needs to play it a little bit closer to the vest with some of these stories and understand that some of these stories look a little bad on the outside. When you have a talent constantly trying to break into your shows and not being arrested because it's giving a bad look to the fan base, because somebody's not going to realize that this isn't real, and we're going to have a situation where somebody jumps the barricade at a real show and gets real hurt because of it. And if you've ever seen Jacob Fatu, please, for the love of God, don't do it during a Jacob Fatu match, because that man will beat your ass and not think twice about it. The other thing I want WWE to do, and while I'm ranting, I'm going to go ahead and do this one. Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio. God, this thing is giving me the fucking ick. This whole story, I understand. It's an act. It's two consenting adults who understand what the storyline is, consenting to a storyline. I get it. However, I don't like it. It makes me feel icky because Dominic Mysterio has often and repeatedly said no to Liv Morgan and to all of her advances. And she's continuing to shower him with gifts, and she's continuing to shower him with gaslighting, manipulation, and apparently naughty, dirty DMs in the Twitter chat, or text messages, or whatever the fuck she sent him. And I understand. Liv Morgan wants to take everything that was Rhea Ripley's. I get it. But we have to remember, there was never a romantic relationship between Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio. It was never categorically made romantic. I know that she kissed him on the cheek when he won the championship, and she's probably kissed him on the cheek more times than that. However, I can't recall once seeing Rhea Ripley kiss Dominic Mysterio on the lips ever during that storyline. I understand where they're going from, and I really wish they'd either get Dominic to say yes and be okay with it weeks ago, or drop it entirely, because it's real icky. And if this were the other way around, most of this fan base would not be as okay, it's fine, as they are with this. because this is giving me Lita being forced to go out and do a live sex celebration vibes. And that's not the thing I normally get from the Triple H era. And again, I understand that's not what's happening. Triple H, Dominic Mysterio, Liv Morgan have all sat down in a room and agreed, this is the storyline that we're going with. This is what we're doing. And I think all parties involved are okay with it. I don't think anybody cares. That's part of the storyline. However, it doesn't look good, especially when your company is in the middle of a lawsuit that the federal government is investigating about the former person who ran your company forcing people to have sex with him and other people in your company. I don't think this is the storyline we want to go with. So get Dominic on board real fast, because this is not good. Mike the Rep, January 6th is the first Raw on Netflix. The storyline will last till then, right? No, I think this storyline ends hopefully as soon as Rhea Ripley comes back. My hope and prayer is that this storyline ends when Rhea comes back and destroys. But then again, that runs into a whole new set of issues that I have, where I think that there's no good way to get out of this once Rhea does come back. Because if Rhea doesn't destroy and literally tear Liv limb from limb, then Rhea looks bad. And if for some reason Rhea does tear her limb from limb, then Liv Morgan was just a placeholder for Rhea Ripley, and that doesn't make Liv look any better. So at the end of the day, nobody gets over any more than the other. I like the idea of Liv taking everything that Rhea Ripley loves and adores. I get that. That makes sense to me. I just wish that it were less sexual assault and more gaslighting, coercion than it is. Because it feels like sexual assault right now, and I don't like it. All right. Moving on to our main event. Unless Astrid has anything to say about any of this.
I mean, you said it all, and I'd rather not get, the trolls later on, so I'll let you have it.
Oh, I'm fine with that. It's fine.
I know you can take it, but me on the other has a different story. So
Mike the Ref says Rhea rips Liv apart, leading to Dom turning on Rhea. Liv and Dom get more heat. Yeah, great, but Liv and Dom get more heat, but I don't see what that does for Liv going forward if all she's gained out of all this is heat. Like, I understand. Like, I see the story and I agree that's exactly what needs to happen, but I feel like that doesn't do anything for Liv in the whole thing. Like, she held the belt and she did all the things that she could never do, but she only did all those things when Rhea wasn't here. So to make Liv better, she needs to do it when Rhea comes back. But if you do that when Rhea comes back, then you risk hurting Rhea more than you hurt Liv. And Rhea's the cash cow for the next 10 years, whereas Liv Morgan won't be here in 10 years. I personally don't see Liv Morgan still in WWE in the next 10 years. Maybe she is. I like Liv. I think she's fine, but
I did want to go back to the Brooks part, because I definitely felt that, like, just like you did, especially with his fiance, I think it was, doing that video. I'm like, you're getting a lot of fans concerned for his, for his well-being and everything. I was like, this is just too much, because then when something really happens, like, for example, just to give it like that, when Roman said he had leukemia, a lot of people didn't believe him. A lot of people thought it was a storyline thing, because that's, how it is with wrestling. You become at a point that you're like, is this real or is it not? Should I say something or should I stay quiet? Because you don't know for sure. But then we have a storyline like this one that he's like, oh, first I got released. It's like, I feel like you're mocking the people that got released before. It's like, that's why I don't like these type of storylines where people are like, oh, I got released, and then they try to play it off like they did. I was like, yeah, but what about the people that did get released and obviously wanted to be there in that company? That's the first thing. Is like, and the second thing is like, you make people like comment. It's like, oh, I hope he's okay, and like, well wishes to you, and things like that. And it's like you're drawing attention to it in such a way that I'm like, you didn't believe when Roman had leukemia, but you believe that this guy's actually out with his fiance, and she's posting a video about it, and that's fine with you. It's like, it just, you have to think about the situations here. To me, it doesn't make sense that she would post a video like that. Once I saw it, I went, I don't think I believe you right now, and we'll see what happens. And I still don't, and even that keeps going with it.
Yeah, and we have Brooks posting this to Twitter just not long ago that Astrid sent me. Astrid, thank you.
Keep questioning, work or shoot.
It's a work. Trust me, it's a work. It's not a shoot. I'm fairly certain of that, and I've been fairly certain of that the whole time. But thank you.
Kayfabe or not.
It's kayfabe. It's absolutely kayfabe. But we'll continue.
You'll never know.
We know. Trust me, we all know.
Neither will I.
That probably might be the only part you got right, buddy. The only part he got right in that entire thing is that he might not know either, and I don't think he does know whether it's a work or a shoot. I think he's got issues. Speaking of things going on, we had a main event tonight. Shawn Spears, the new daddy, Shawn Spears, versus Trick Williams. This is a good match. I like this. Or Mensa attacks Ethan Page, who was on commentary for the beginning of this match. But that gets rid of Ethan Page, which is nice. And then Brooks Jensen comes in and tries to rush the ring and gets pulled away by security. And at one point, he grabs the facade on the table and he hits Trick Williams in the head with it. And Trick acts like he got hit with a steel chair and falls around in the ring so that Shawn Spears can give him the C4 against the ropes to get the big 1, 2, 3. And now Shawn Spears has defeated the NXT champion weeks before a pay-per-view, while Ethan Page defeated the number one contender and after being eliminated from a battle royal that he was never eliminated from. So it goes back to Ava's office and they go, wow, Shawn Spears just beat the champion. Well, Ethan Page beat the number one contender. What are we going to do?
Oh, no.
Like, I guess we're going to do a fatal four-way at Heatwave. And I'm like, no shit.
Well, shit, Sherlock.
I told you that last week when you gave me the nice all four guys reaching for the title in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
What do you think?
This one particularly, I don't mind how short it was, because it obviously gives you that moment of like the preview towards the match. So this is the only match that I will be like, I was fine with being the shorter as it was. The part I didn't like about this match though was like, first we got Ethan in commentary. Fine, that's fine to like obviously give you a preview of what's gonna happen next. But first you have Oro going against him. Okay, that makes sense. Fine, you take out Ethan from the equation for that moment there. But that's the first interruption we get during this match. And then all of a sudden we get the hoodie, and then they reveal that it's Brooke Jensen. The security takes him away. Second interruption during this match. I was like, do I need that many interruptions in one single match that doesn't have a lot of time to begin with? I would have done without the Brooks Jensen one at least. Because the Ethan one makes sense to continue not only the story with Ethan and the NXT Championship, but the Ethan or storyline, it makes sense. The Brooks Jensen, I could have done without. Once he hit Trick, I knew it was over with. And it's like, and you knew this was obviously to set up that fatal four-way. So it's like, I understand why the match itself was as short as it was. Because you don't want, obviously, it happens to set up the fatal four-way later. But again, it's like, I didn't like it. Like, I feel like we recovered for the Ethan Oro one, and we're like back in the pacing of the match itself. And then we get another interruption. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? But that's the only thing that I could have done without. I know what it set up and why it happened. But I could have done without Brooks Jensen being in here.
Yeah, and obviously Brooks Jensen is continuing. It's like I've been saying since the get-go. Shawn Spears had a video package of Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs, and he's like, ooh, a moldable mind. And Josh thought he was talking about him. No, he was always talking about Jensen. It was always going to be Jensen. This is the first step of the two of them working together. I see this being a teacher-student relationship. I see it being a tag team. This is Jensen finding a place to belong. And he's going to find a way to belong with Shawn Spears and his wacky teachings. And that's fine. Like, at the end of the day, that's fine. But like I said, I had my rant on Jensen. I think it's a silly situation. I don't think it doesn't do anybody any good to play the work shoot line like this, because it just makes all releases feel icky. And I want less ick in my wrestling. I don't mind having heels who I hate, but I want less ick. Speaking of things that will not give you the ick, Astrid, what do you got coming up this week?
I was gonna say not this week, but next week. Next week is it? I keep forgetting what week it is. We do have Heat Wave. I'm gonna hold off on the preview one, but at least for the post show, we do have Joey from the Angle Podcast as our guest. So really excited for that. We'll mention the other one a little bit later. We just want to confirm that that's still happening before we mention names. But really excited that we have another guest coming up for that one as well. He watches NXT very often, so it's nice to get another point of view from what we usually do here. So that's very exciting for us as always. I think we might do a Slammiversary post show. I most likely will be a part of it. We'll see how that goes. But really excited to still talk about TNA, especially with the new fan and Mark that we have that he's enjoying TNA recently. So it's been
created a monster.
Yeah, we did. But aside from that, you can find me on my Twitter, Blue Skies, Astrid Pizarro, Instagram and Threads, Astrid Pizarro 20, and everything else you can find on my YouTube channel. And again, I think we have. See, I remember this time around. Where is it? Okay, here. So first, if you scan the QR code, this is for the W Shop affiliate. Any kind of discount or sales, you can still get them even when you scan the QR code. And again, as we have here, the beautiful Mel and the fabulous Mike, they're really modeling my shirt. So if you can scan the QR code, you'll be able to get that there as well.
Yeah. And of course, you can find me on Twitter at EdFries12584. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/EdFries2002. We've got a whole bunch of fun coming up. Like Astrid said, we have a guest pretty much confirmed for the pre-show. We'll let you know later on in this week once we can definitely confirm. But it is a big guest that I'm very excited to work with, as I've already attempted to say that I've worked with her before when I accidentally tweeted out the wrong name. So hopefully we get the opportunity to do that. And of course, Joey from the Angle Podcast is going to be a whole bunch of fun. The Angle Podcast is a great show. It would be nice to get his point of view on all things NXT, as I know he tweets about NXT every week. I like to see the tweets, so it'll be fun to do that. You can find me tomorrow night as we talk all things Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 on Marvel Talk. We go ahead and we're gonna review that show. Marvel Talk, the MC Rebound episodes like this is going to be. It's just a lot of things that we can do in the in-between time while there's nothing going on for Marvel. Remember that we have 2 special guests lined up for the weekend of July 26th when Deadpool and Wolverine opens. I am very excited. Cameron Hawkins and Mark Talks Wrestling are both going to be joining me and Andre as we go ahead and review Deadpool 3, Deadpool and Wolverine. It's going to be a bunch of fun. Can't wait for that. Next Monday, I believe me and Ash will be back to Talking Takeover. We've taken a short break from that. Hopefully next week we'll be back to that. Next week is going to be a busy week for me. It's going to be interesting. However, you can make sure that you catch all of the wonderful Our Local Establishment content by going to Our Local Ole Podcast on Twitter, Ole Podcast on Instagram and Threads, or just go to our YouTube channel and subscribe and watch there at Our Local Establishment. You can find all of our wonderful content there. Thank you for joining us. I have been OLED Ed Fries. This has been Astrid Pizarro. Shawn Michaels was cooking again tonight, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.